A nation on the brink. Why Americans are furious. More than at any other moment in modern times, Americans are absolutely livid about the state of the economy. The next administration will inherit a country up to its eyeballs in debt, struggling with a consumer recession so deep you could lose a Subaru in it. Our government has essentially been playing a real-life game of Monopoly, except instead of using fake money, they've piled up the biggest mountain of debt in the history of the world. The U.S. economy, folks, is experiencing something akin to a full-blown existential crisis. They're dissatisfied, they're angry, and they want someone to fix this mess. Will it happen? Who knows, but buckle up, because we're going through 15 reasons why people are angrier than a retiree in a broken elevator about the state of the U.S. economy. A nation of worriers' financial anxiety grips America. Let's start with a simple question. How many of you feel anxious about your finances? A recent survey by Capital One found that a whopping 77% of Americans are stressed out about their finances. People are specifically worried about very real things: their savings, their retirement plans, and managing their debt. Maybe financial anxiety is just a normal part of the human experience. Except here's the thing, it doesn't have to be this way. Other developed countries seem to have figured out a way to have functioning economies without turning their citizens into quivering balls of financial anxiety. So, what gives? Why are Americans so uniquely terrified about their finances? The $45,000 question. Why half of America is struggling? Let's talk about a number that should be absolutely mortifying for a country that likes to call itself the richest nation on earth. $45,000. That, my friends, is the annual income that roughly half of American workers are currently scraping by on. In the land of opportunity, 50% of workers are making less than $45,000 a year, according to the Social Security Administration. And before you even try to utter the words cost of living, let me stop you right there. Rent, groceries, healthcare, transportation, all those essential things that keep you alive and vaguely functional in society, they don't magically become cheaper just because you live in a place where the median home price isn't in the stratosphere. The truth is, for millions of Americans, the math just doesn't add up. They're working their tails off, often juggling multiple jobs, and they're still barely scraping by. The Great American Housing Heist. Why home ownership is a pipe dream. Remember the good old days when owning a home was considered a cornerstone of the American dream, not a punchline? Yeah, me neither. The average home price in the U.S. is currently hovering well above $400,000. That's not a typo, folks, $400,000. And that's just the average. In many cities, you'd be lucky to find a dilapidated garden shed for that price. So, what's going on here? Well, it's a perfect storm of factors, really. You've got low housing inventory, thanks in part to years of underbuilding. You've got investors gobbling up properties like they're going out of style. And of course, you've got good old-fashioned greed. The result? Millions of Americans, especially young people, are priced out of the housing market entirely. Rent trap. Why your landlord is probably living better than you are. So you can't afford to buy a home? No problem, just rent, right? Wrong, because as it turns out, the rental market is about as welcoming as a nest of vipers. Since 2019, rents in the U.S. have skyrocketed by a mind-boggling 34.4%. Meanwhile, wages have crawled up a measly 9.8% over the same period. The result? Millions of Americans are trapped in a cycle of rent burden where they're forced to shell out an increasingly large chunk of their income just to keep a roof over their heads. And let's be clear, this isn't just about avocado toast or fancy lattes. This is about basic human dignity. It's about being able to afford a safe and decent place to live without having to choose between paying rent and, eating. The grocery game's hunger strikes the American dream. According to Data Assembly's Grocery Price Index, grocery prices have shot up by a whopping 33.5% since January 2020. And don't even get me started on eggs, which have basically become the culinary equivalent of gold bullion. While corporate executives are off toasting their record profits with champagne and caviar, millions of Americans are struggling to put food on the table. From bread lines to food lines, a nation's shame. Imagine being so furious that you're forced to rely on food banks just to feed your family. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, over 26 million people in this country don't have enough food to eat on a regular basis. In the wealthiest nation on earth, millions of people are going hungry. And it's not just individuals, it's families, it's children, it's seniors. People who, through no fault of their own, are finding themselves on the brink of starvation. Yes, there are programs in place to help these people, but those programs are often underfunded, overwhelmed, and frankly, not designed to handle the sheer scale of the problem. Remember that feeling you get when you check your bank account balance after a weekend of questionable financial decisions? Yeah, multiply that feeling by about 1,000, and you might start to understand what it's like for the millions of Americans who are struggling to keep up with their monthly bills. According to a recent study, the number of consumers struggling to pay household bills has skyrocketed from 26.9 million in 2021 to a staggering 43.2 million in 2023. And it's not just credit card debt either. We're talking about rent, utilities, medical bills, student loans, all those fun little expenses that have a nasty habit of piling up faster than dirty laundry. The credit card, that magical piece of plastic that allows us to buy things we can't afford and then spend the next several years or decades of our lives paying for them. Americans are currently sitting on a record $1.14 trillion in credit card debt. And if you think that number is scary, wait till you hear about the average credit card interest rate, which is currently hovering around a cool 20.51%. As interest rates continue to rise, so too does the cost of carrying a balance on your credit card. Get ready for a blast from the past because according to a recent study, financial distress in the U.S. is now at levels not seen since the depths of the 2008 financial crisis. The study found that a staggering 49% of Americans are currently carrying credit card balances month to month. We're basically back to square one. The time your car broke down and you had to shell out hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to get it fixed? Yeah, me too. According to a recent study, the cost of car repairs has jumped by a whopping 49.8% since 2015. That means that what used to be a minor inconvenience can now quickly turn into a major financial burden. Even routine maintenance like oil changes and tire rotations can cost an arm and a leg these days. In America, getting sick can be more expensive than a weekend getaway to Vegas. The high cost of healthcare in the U.S. is no secret. In fact, a recent study found that Americans are now more likely to skip or delay necessary medical care due to costs than citizens of any other developed country. In the richest nation on earth, people are literally dying because they can't afford to see a doctor. Remember when a college education was seen as a pathway to a better life, not a one-way ticket to debt city? Over the past 6 decades, the cost of college tuition has skyrocketed by an astronomical 700%. College is now 7 times more expensive than it was for your grandparents' generation. And the worst part? Wages haven't even come close to keeping up with this insane increase in cost. Even the rich are hurting. The paycheck-to-paycheck epidemic. You know things are bad when even the wealthy are starting to feel the pinch. A recent study found that a staggering 36% of households earning over $250,000 a year are living paycheck to paycheck. Corporate carnage. Why big businesses are going bust. It's not just individuals who are feeling the pain of the economic downturn. In recent months, we've seen a surge in high-profile bankruptcies with companies like TGI Fridays and Spirit Airlines filing for Chapter 11. The pink slip blues, why layoffs are fueling the fury. Remember when a job used to be considered, a relatively secure thing? Yeah, me neither. In recent months, we've seen a wave of mass layoffs sweep across the country with companies like Boeing, Stellantis, and CNN all announcing plans to let go of thousands of workers. The American dream delayed, denied, and under construction. The reality is that Americans are becoming more and more furious about the current state of the U.S. economy. We're facing a perfect storm of challenges, from soaring inflation to stagnant wages to a housing market that's gone completely bonkers. We need change. And we need it now. We need policies that prioritize the needs of working families, not just the wealthy and well-connected. We need to invest in education, healthcare, and infrastructure, and we need to start holding our elected officials accountable for the mess we're in. What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching.